as I was saying, in all this process, one of the main reprogrammings that we have to do is the center. The center was us. And the first code that we have in the center is our name. Our name is a huge program that we repeat constantly, not knowing what we are saying. So, what is your name? What is the code historically, etymologically, in frequency? So the study of our own name will also decode how are we walking all of this. It's very important to know the frequency that we have. And sometimes some say, I changed my name. I call myself in a different way. But the important here is we have an origin, which is how others named us. So that was imprinted in our cells, in our brains since we were born. And then we have the other name, which is how they call us today, which is also imprinted as another code. So we have to work with any of those. Whatever we accepted as a code for ourselves to recognize, oh, in the infinite, this is me. Yeah? So what does Matias means? Where does it come from? What was the original intention? What is the second name meaning? What is the surname? What is this and that? And even if you didn't have that name at the beginning, well, now your cells recognize that name as a way to recognize time and space. So that is the first programming we have. So when we use our cells, like for example, spiritual names, when we try to shift spiritual names, and some people, they stop calling themselves as well, the names that we have today, and they use like usually Indian names for some reason. Well, that's the source of everything. But when we do that, we're trying to connect with a higher aspect of ourselves. Okay? When we use names from other traditions, you are accessing data from that other tradition. But to access your own data, you have to create your own frequency. You have to find your frequency. How? Singing. Yesterday, I was inviting you to sing with no sense. Someone asked me, what was this song that you were singing? I have no idea. I never heard that song before. And I don't remember what I was singing yesterday. So, what was that? It was a reprogramming for that moment. So, it moves something in the brain, it moves something in the blood, it reorganizes information, yeah? So we can access different sides of our brain. So that's why reprogramming the name, who you are here, is fundamental, okay, to access a new state. That's the 13th day, or the 13th month, is the rebirth of the system. So you name yourself in a different way, yeah? In ancient cultures, we used to do that every time that we acknowledge something new from ourselves. That's why some traditions, they call themselves like white feather. You know, like in America, like Big Bear and whatever. So all these Indian names, they were frequencies. So they were calling one way, and then they changed their name, and they discover their own potential. So we used to change the name many times in history, and until we started to establish specific names, and we call them surnames. And now we are stuck with a clan. We are not anymore who we are. I am also carrying the frequency of the De Stefanos, yeah, which is not good. But here we are. So I'm carrying all the ancestors here, trying to talk through them too. So all of that burden is the information that is in the center of our sun, in the point of gravity that we are spinning. Okay? And as I said, the programming of weeks, days, questions, the alchemy journey that you have to go through is literally how to move in the gravity around the sun so you can accept more radiation, evolve through transformation until you become enlightened. And you will become enlightened in 5 million years. So don't rush. Yeah? So naturally, 5 million or so. Okay? If everything goes fine. 5 million. A few maybe got enlightened before. Yeah, just some might get enlightened before for some specific reason. But it's not our goal. It's our evolution. Yeah? Evolution is not a goal. Evolution is a process. What I was describing here is the process of evolution, not the end of nothing, of something specific. Yeah? So this is basically for us to relocate the self, the center, and to know how to move properly, correctly in the system of evolution. Yeah? How do we know that it's accomplished?
Yes.
That the mission was accomplished?
Yeah, what would it look like?
When, remember yesterday I talked about synchronization. Yeah? So there are synchronicities that are shown in the world that you have to know how to pay attention to know the optimization. I will give an example. I don't know who was following me closely, but I've been in Geneva last month. Last month? Yeah. Last month. So the whole process that I was doing there was how can we correct what was broken in the physical realm and the time realm. Okay? So who was controlling time? It was the Vatican. In the Middle Ages, the Vatican, Gregorius, the Pope, established a calendar called Gregorian calendar. So the Gregorian calendar tried to fix something from the past, and then we had to rebalance. He had to rebalance and create the new calendar. Okay, so that calendar is the one that we are using in our economical system, in our daily life. It's the Gregorian, but it's not properly good because some days are fake and it's a mess. So it's not a proper calendar following the right times. Yeah. So the thing is, something is broken in time. And what was broken in time? Remember, it was light, something at the speed of light, breaking a particle. So CERN. So it was a proton that was broken. So we went to CERN to do this optimization. So we've been like singing, calibrating, and doing many things to try to put the calendar with the proton again in balance. Okay? So we've been doing that for months with different tasks, and we alchemized that specific day. So we went to a cave, we went to a place in the mountain where the future CERN is going to be, and we did all these crazy things that were like, what are you doing? Very weird. So, since many years ago, I knew that task I had to do with my niece. Yeah, 4 years old. So I took her to do the task with me, and we were doing the alchemy with her. So in that optimization, she said, I want for a unicorn to appear. We need the magic. Like, how do we see the magic? You know, like, and I said, well, doing alchemy is like going going to school. Like, first you have to learn the letters, the words, to read, and so on, and eventually you will know how to read a book. So it takes time. In school, you practice this, so the result can be long. But we did the whole magic together in CERN. Next day, that was amazing. And that's the confirmation of synchronicity. Next day, someone gifted the Pope in the Vatican a white horse called Proton. Yeah? So when you see that, it's like, okay, the kid was right. It was a unicorn. It was a unicorn. And the crazy thing is why someone would give a Pope a horse with the name of a proton. Okay? So that is synchronicity. Synchronicity is when you do all this magic and you see something happening in the world that is literally related to that, that makes no sense. It's like in the normal life, it would never happen. You see a white horse walking in the Vatican called Proton. After we were working the Trojan horse and the poison in Turkey, and so it's like the Trojan horse bringing the Proton to the Vatican to correct time. Like, so you try to explain it, it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's synchronicity. So, what is the alchemization? How do you see the result? You have to pay attention to the weirdest thing that makes no sense, but because of all the tasks that you have been doing, it makes perfect sense. It's like, oh, this is the alchemization. Yeah? So it's the magic of sympathy. Yeah. How it impacted. Okay. So the concept of Israel being the heel. So the concept of the land there was the person that founded not the state of Israel, but the origin of Israel, like 5,000 years ago. It was called Jacob. Jacob means heel, literally. The translation of Jacob is heel. So the concept is the heel of God, where you put the heel in a territory. So it's like saying God stood up there, and that's where I put my axis. You can relate to that because that place became the center of all the main religions for God. It's like the main power of all the mindset of the planet. The Kabbalah, for example, is the first that wrote with abracadabra the mindset. Then the Christians, then the Islam. So every certain centuries, a different heel of God was set up there, okay, from the beginning. So all the mindset of our planet, as I said before, we're celebrating Christmas. Why? Because the mindset of that Christmas came from Jerusalem, from Bethlehem. So is that land. Now, geographically, why? Because one thing is humans. Humans are following geography. So why that land is so important? The reason why it's so important is because of the Dead Sea and the valley of the Sinai. So the valley of the Sinai, or the valley of Jordan, the river, that valley is the lowest point on earth where you can walk. Yeah, it's like, I don't know how deep on earth. So you actually walk in the river, in the Dead Sea, and you can see the mountains, and actually you're under the sea, okay? Which means that you can walk to the origin of where we come from. It's a powerful land where all the desert and the statics of the desert hits the mountains and rise up. So energetically, it's a place of connection to the divine from the deepest point of the planet. Yeah, so it's the deepest heel of the consciousness with the highest. The amount of salt that is there is also very important. Sodium is the key to God. Sodium is the cube of Metatron. So every cube of sodium reflects the 12 rays of the archangels. So the Dead Sea is actually an open book of the divine that used to be the ocean in one of the main cracks of the planet, which is the Ethiopia crack that goes to the south of Africa. So it's the same line that ends in Lebanon and Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey. So in all that line, the power of the core of the Kundalini of the planet in Africa ends in that fault that is there, that is very deep on earth, crossing the Red Sea. So which means that the origin of humanity finds enlightenment in that territory. So for all human consciousness, whatever happens in that land represents the state of mind and how the vibration of sodium is in our skull. Like, we need sodium to create electricity, we need sodium to create balance in our brain, everything. So the Dead Sea is alive in our minds all the time. So that's why in humanity, the heel, whoever put the heel in that land, represents the axis of humanity. And we were talking yesterday about why saying Israel and not saying Palestine, for example, in frequency. And one of the reasons historically is because Palestine, it's a name that means Philistines. So Philisteos is a name of the Romans used to criticize everyone that was living in that land. So no native wanted to be called Philistines because they were the people that were destroying the lands in that time, 2,000 years ago. So they call it the province of Rome, Philistea. Yeah. So which means lovers of God. So this name was used always to basically criticize the people living there, no matter the religion. Yeah. So it was a joke from the Romans, bothering everyone, basically. So that's why it doesn't even represent the Arab people living there. It was actually a Roman imperialistic name to control the minds of the people living there, so they cannot recognize themselves. So everyone that forgot where they come from, they used to say, "Oh, you are one of those Philistines." Yeah. So it was a Roman thing. So that's why the whole region, Israel, is a name of the entire land that is not specifically from the Judaism, is Hebrew, from the Semitic lands, the Semitic traditions from the very beginning. So in that territory, the people from the desert, from Babylon and so on, they were told to go to the deepest place on earth to find God, and they went to a temple, a natural temple, a cave dedicated to the god of the sunset. So the god of the sunset it's called stillness, because from the mountains you can see the sea very still in the Mediterranean, and it was the end of all lands in the Middle East. So stillness is another word for peace. Everything is quiet. So the god of the sunset, it was called Shaleim. Yeah, Shaleim. So they founded a city, Yaruch, for Shaleim. Yaruch Shaleim. So it was not Jew in that moment. It was a very ancestral thing that represented the god of sunset, where humanity would find God. So the first one that went there and founded Yerushalayim was a guy called Hil. And from there, all the vision of how we see the world today. So that's why it's so important. I think it's like very encoded in every tradition that was spread throughout colonialism, through imperialism, and all the mindset that we have in the planet today was born through the holy trinity of religions that were born in that territory. So that's why the heels that were set there are living in our mindset, controlling our minds all the time. Yeah, sorry. I go to the back. Yeah.
Yeah, hope you can hear me from here, but
yeah.
First of all, thanks so much for your talk as always.
Magari
If you
lo
could elaborate
Cipriano.
more on how information is carried through music.
Mm-hmm. Well, music is the knowledge of the muses. So music is not only playing an instrument. Music refers to the 7 states of alchemy in the muses: architecture, math, poetry, music, instruments, literature. So there are 7 muses that actually create the mindset and the reality of the world. So one is talking about vibration. The other one, how to use the vibration. The other one, how to build with vibration. The other one, how to measure with vibration. So basically, is the first science that described the movement of waves, of particles, the laws of the universe. So for us, poetry, for example, poetry is like a very old thing that sometimes is a bit boring, but maybe romantic. But actually, for the ancient times, poetry comes from the word poiesis. Poiesis means to create. Yeah? So poiesis means to abracadabra. So that's why we tend to relate magical, how to say it? Spells in a very poetical way. You see, like we repeat like verses. Yeah, they have to have rhythm, because poetry was to create as we speak. So music is not just about playing an instrument. Music is about the 7 levels of awareness on how to build something, how to create a reality. So the music that we usually hear is one of the 7 that you need to have in count. So for example, hearing music here is not the same as hearing it in a church, in a cave, in a specific temple, inside a pyramid, in a forest. So that's the geometry. That's the architecture of the muses. So for a particle, for a wave, music is the one that moves the vibration in specific resonance or rhythms. But the thing is, later you have to know in which vessel you are making that vibration, in which amount of times, which is the math of it. How do you pronounce the words for it to manifest in a specific location? So there are so many things related to the 7 muses, not just the music. Yeah, to contain a particle from the waves. Yeah. Why 300 years back and 300 years forward? Is related to the law of 3. We could say, actually, 10 times 3, so 30, then 30, 30, 30, 90, so it's not actually 300 exactly, but it's a cycle of 90, 90, 90, yeah? So you have to follow always the Trinity to create a Holy Trinity. So once you have the Holy Trinity, you can create a structure. And from that Holy Trinity, you create another one, and another one, and another one. So, is here a tetrahedron? No. So, you know a tetrahedron? The shape of a tetrahedron? So basically, is you complete one triangle, and then you create another triangle, and another triangle, another triangle. Now you have 4 triangles that are going to represent these different Holy Trinities, which can be 3, 30, 300, yeah? So it's Holy Trinities, or packages of 3, that shapes a reality. So when you go 300 years back, it's like saying 3 generations, 3 generations, 3 generations to complete a tetrahedron. So once you have 300 back and 300 ahead, what you have together is a Merkaba. Okay? So what are you? The center of the Merkaba. In time. So instead of building it through space, and you create the tetrahedron and you sit in the middle, you create it through time. So 3 or 6 generations back, 6 generations ahead, yeah? And you have 3 centuries, so you are the ionization of time in the center of the Merkaba. That's why using packages of 3. What is inner power? Power is the original word for power is potere. Yeah? Potere means potency, but also comes from the word father. So father is basically the north, the direction of your light. Where are you heading? So father, potential, power is actually organization of your energy. You have all the power in the world because you have infinite power in your atoms. You have power in your energy, in your soul, in your mind. You have infinite amount of power. But the reason why you don't use the power is because we don't usually locate it correctly. So it's not that you have to find your inner power in a spiritual or conceptual way, but it's actually about reorganizing the inner power that you already have in your cells, in your atoms, everything. So power is direction. It's not about something that you have to find within. It's about the direction that your energy has to flow towards. Yeah? Because you have all the sources within. The only thing that we don't know how to use the power is because we don't have direction for that power. So this is like electricity. Energy is around there, or like a Tesla antenna. Like energy is everywhere, but until you don't build the structure for it to flow correctly in between positive and negative, like a kundalini, yeah, like in India you bring the kundalini. So there's no direction from that power, so you cannot find it, or you cannot use it correctly.
How you find the direction?
We find the direction with this system. That's part of it. To put north. Yeah. First thing is, where is my north? That's the first direction. Where's my north? What do I have to learn here? How I put all the things that I have in my life with one specific north. What is my project in life? My direction, my goal. And the goal, the direction, is not something that you have to accomplish. That's another human thing, that we believe that, oh, this is my goal, so I have to accomplish it. Yeah? It's not about accomplishing a goal, it's about having a direction. When you accomplish that goal, there's going to be something new. And everyone, we always say, when is it going to end? When are we going to actually accomplish the process that we have to do? Well, never. Because you are full potential, and full potential needs constant direction. So to use that potential, you need to reorganize. So how do you find your potential? Well, first, you have to organize yourself. Coherence is called also. Like, how do you activate the full potential of your being? For that, what you have to do is to act according to what you feel, according to what you think. Your ideas need to lead your emotion, and your emotions are the potential for your actions. We don't have full power when you don't act according to the three. Yeah? And I usually say also, that's why evil people sometimes have more power than us. Why? Because they have no caring for what others might think. So they are fully coherent. Like, my mind says kill, my emotion says kill, my action says kill. So it's like, I have no problem with that. So that's why they do it, because they have potential, because they have coherence. In the universe, it's not about, oh, you're a bad person. Like, try to explain bad person to a tree. It's like, the trees have been here way longer than humans and have no morality, and they work perfectly. So it's not about morality, it's about full potential of coherence. Yeah? So to activate potential, you need coherence.